I can be a cynical SOB when it comes to media stuff, especially when it can be performative. Symbolism has value, so don't misunderstand me. I would make the argument that implicit things that take place in regards to our society has a lot more effect sometimes than explicitly trying to get something across. Having a parent go to work every day, day after day after day after day after day after day after day, as opposed to that parent telling their kid to do your work and not do that. I would wager to you that the implicit act of what that kid sees is impressionable upon that, is impressionable upon that kid. I make the point that saying something versus the implicit action of those things, sometimes the implicit action matters more. Oftentimes, though, we take performative measures as just symbolism for the sake of, in lieu of, actual things. Sometimes, most of the time, especially in the political space, that is sound and fury which amounts to nothing of real meaning. However, there are times that that's not necessarily true. And I have to be honest, I don't like the knee. People take the knee for Floyd. I am not a fan of the knee. Basically, this was a moment of weakness that people have basically iconized, as opposed to some level of a moment of strength. I don't like it. Nevertheless, that's what people use. That's what people go with when they try to be a part of that particular movement. NASCAR went a different way with this. Now, I have to be honest. I love this. And NASCAR's response has been above board. I have yet to see anything even close to this in the way that NASCAR has responded to it. If you other organizations want to figure out how to do race relations correctly, take a look at NASCAR. The reason I say that is, whatever NASCAR's faults, whatever their failings is on the issue of rights and civil rights, all this stuff, whatever, I'm not sure. What I do know is when Bubba Wallace said, get rid of the Confederate flag, they said, you are right, we're removing the Confederate flag, against many of what those people wanted to do. Many of those people said, hey, this is Southern pride, this is Southern pride. We had the right to own slaves and other human beings. That's right, that's what we're fighting for. Well, NASCAR wasn't feeling that, they got rid of it. Against pushback. Now, the catch is, someone put a noose in Bubba Wallace's, the only black driver at NASCAR's garage. Now, the FBI has started to investigate, trying to figure out where it comes from. And on top of that, NASCAR is doing an investigation to root out, basically, this level of prejudice and racism that has allowed such a threat to take place against Bubba Wallace's life. Even if NASCAR has a fiscal incentive in trying to basically get African Americans to pay attention to this sport now that they have a black person that they can use as a conduit to shoehorn black people into that sport, even if that's true, where it's only from a capitalistic standpoint, I don't care. I don't care. NASCAR is a company. I have no expectations of that company having values, feelings, and everything else. What I do have an expectation of is that company not being racist when somebody points out, hey, that's pretty racist, and to take it seriously when you have a black driver, the only black driver, and you have something threatened against his life. The entire point of that news is to be a threat. And the response by NASCAR for Bubba Wallace is solidarity. All of them stood beside him in this issue. He was not alone. And not just not alone. I watch, if you get the opportunity, go back and watch where that little black child gets to go to the segregated school for the first time. And that little child, she's terrified. And she has marshals walking her into the school, and there are people spitting at her and yelling at her and screaming at her. And she's a child, and she's dealing with these, hateful white people. In this situation, NASCAR, again, the only black driver, all of those drivers stood up in line, walked behind him and said, we got you, and we're with you. I love that. Whatever the reality of it is for each of those drivers, I did like the symbolism and the sentiment of it. And I'm going to show you that particular tribute. Wallace was crying, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of it. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and of course subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. Yes, I am no longer on Political Misfits. I am on Fault Lines now. Fault Lines goes on from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard from Washington, D.C. 105.5 FM. Yeah, that's a little heady sometimes when I say that, because that's actually a real radio station, and that actually plays in DC. So that always is a little weird to me. Yeah, I haven't gotten over that. I haven't incorporated that into normality yet. It's Garland's show, as far as I feel. Nevertheless, at some point, it may feel like mine, but it's not at this point. So let's watch NASCAR's tribute to Wallace. And by I say tribute, I just mean the drivers at Talladega. Full solidarity. Stand with Bubba.
NASCAR's drivers have rallied around. All of NASCAR's drivers have rallied around Bubba Wallace, the NASCAR Cup Series lone black driver, after what happened here yesterday afternoon. The drivers, led by reigning Cup Series champion Kyle Busch in green, and their crews, the entire garage area, has rallied around Bubba Wallace and the number 43 today. Because yesterday afternoon, a noose was found hanging in the garage stall of Bubba's race car. In the NASCAR Cup garage area, a secure area where access is limited to competitors, officials, and track staff. A despicable act by someone flying directly in the face of NASCAR's efforts to build a culture that is diverse, equal, and welcome. That's why Richard Petty is here today, and why Ryan Blaney.
I can imagine this is somewhat of an emotional moment, right? I mean, you were the first African American in the sport. Jackie Robinson, he's not in hostile territory in that sense anymore, like a Jackie Robinson would be, but first African American in a sport that is basically considered to be as lily white can get. You can say Tiger Woods exploding in the golf. The catch becomes, what happens when Tiger Woods got into golf? Did African Americans move into golf? I would imagine so, yes. So if NASCAR is looking to expand into this particular demographic, this is the conduit to which they use to do so. The catch here is, though, that just because that may be true from a financial standpoint, it also probably would shock the conscience of those people who are there. Let me explain why. If your society in Poland looked and said, you know what? Those black people are right. We have an issue here. Racism is a problem in our country. And you get like 80% saying that. That is a mind-blowing shift in regards to the public saying, yes, you're right. We see it. Clear as day. Same thing with the cops. Yes, we see it. They're biased towards blacks. Yes. And yes, we agree with the protests. We get it. They don't want them to be violent. They don't want them to tear shit up. But do they understand the basis of it? Yes, they get it. Totally. If that's representative of America, why not? Why wouldn't that be representative there? Meaning, just because it's all white or mostly white, and he's the only black driver, that doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't have other people there who may work there that are black, or for that matter, even among the whites themselves, the polling itself. Whites make up, 60-something% of the population, meaning the majority of that poll had to be whites. So, it would be no different here. Those people who would fit the demographic of America would have a lot of those people who would be shocked by what has taken place. And this is, again, in the context of George Floyd. You must understand what it matters. The moment that you see George Floyd get murdered like that, all of these ideas of civil rights, all of these things of blacks being injured and killed by cops, all of the stuff that people, that shit, all at once. It comes back. It's within context. It's not something that happens once where you could say, okay, that was an unfortunate incident. It's everything that has taken place all at once, that everybody has been saying, that everybody has kind of been seeing, but not necessarily entirely paying attention to, all at once in focus. And you have a shift immediately. And your society is still reconciling that. That's why you have certain things say, okay, we're going to take this thing off, or we're going to not change this name, or update this particular item, or stop doing this, or take down that statue. Your society is recognizing that there is a secondary story to the various myths that it has created and that it's idolized. And that in reconciling, we have to deal with the darker side of this stuff. And maybe the darker side of this stuff, the people who we celebrate, are basically somebody else's monsters. And if indeed those people are part of our society, maybe we should at the very least acknowledge their point of view also, especially if their point of view is right. And if that point of view trends towards, yes, that guy was a monster, maybe we don't want to celebrate him, even if he did good stuff. What matters more, right? The fact that Hitler kept the trains on time and had a pretty decent economy first starting off, or that he had the Jews executed in a final solution. It's the other one. I'm making the point, if it's the other one there, why wouldn't it be the other one in all of these other situations? Be it Columbus or Andrew Jackson. This in an odd way is no different. First black driver, all of these people, same context, just like America, where that stuff snaps into focus, and they are forced to reconcile and acknowledge a secondary point of view and a secondary existence and a secondary experience that other people are having outside of themselves. Whether they get it entirely is secondary to the point that they acknowledge, and they, at the very least, finally are paying attention. This takes place within that context. I don't know, I'm moved by this for some reason. It's bro love on the track. The band makes it seem weird, is all weirdness, but you get the point. I don't know, I like it. I like it a hell of a lot more than any. This is probably one of the most moving experiences that I've seen in regards to sports. Sports, to show you how weird this is, Michael Jordan played one basketball game after another and didn't say shit about anything. My job is the game. I'm going to get my millions of dollars. I'm going to dribble the ball. I'm going to make the shot. You give me the ball, I'm going to shoot the shot. I don't give a shit if I miss 30 shots before it. Infinite confidence. Coming down to the buzzer, I'm going to shoot that shot. People getting killed on the streets. Ah! That's what I do. He never said anything about this stuff going out in the streets, despite the fact that people were still being killed. He gets out now, he wants to say something, but while he was in it, he didn't say anything. Sports was agnostic. You people come there to escape the things that take place out in the outside world. So this stuff didn't take place in sports. The fact that you have people saying, hey, maybe Kaepernick is right. The fact that Kaepernick existed at all is pretty fucking amazing. And the most whitest sport that I am aware of, I mean, there's only one black driver, is doing this. I like it. I like it. Like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, NASCAR, good job. It's not going to make me watch you because I think the sport is boring, but good job. Pam Hall. Oh, thank you, Pam Hall. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I'll see you in a few. Bye-bye.